The Tale of the Ugly Duckling was written by Hans Christian Andersen. As a boy, he had a learning disability and may have felt like an ugly duckling himself. With help, today's kids can learn to overcome this hidden handicap. Write to the Foundation for Children with Learning Disabilities. We're helping children learn to learn.
And he became a beautiful swan.
This is your TV station, 5TV.
Her baby was born with amphetamines and marijuana in its body, drugs she allegedly used while she was pregnant. The baby died.
We honestly feel that if she had done everything that the doctor had told her to do, that child would still be alive today.
The charge? Criminal neglect of an unborn fetus. Good evening, I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline.
7-year-old mother of 2 children.
She took the drugs. She did not refrain from the sexual intercourse, and when she began hemorrhaging, she did not seek the care of a doctor.
The case involves one woman, but it could affect tens of thousands of others. The issue, is it a crime for a pregnant woman to ignore her doctor's orders?
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Until fairly recently, the notion of a fit or unfit mother has been limited to a woman's behavior after her baby is born. The concept that a mother-to-be might be held legally responsible for damage that she inflicts on her unborn baby because she neglects her own health, well, that, you can readily see, is a legal and moral thicket that will call for some Solomonic judgments. What will happen to the pregnant woman who smokes too much, or drinks too much, or exercises too much or too little? What about the woman who overeats or overworks? In theory, any woman who knows or should have known that her conduct might be damaging to her unborn child, that woman could be prosecuted. Indeed, as Chris Bury reports, a woman by the name of Pamela Stewart is being prosecuted on just such grounds.
Pamela Stewart could go to prison for abusing her fetus during a troubled pregnancy. She is the first woman to face trial on criminal charges of neglecting an unborn child. Her alleged crime, failing to follow doctor's orders while pregnant, a failure that prosecutors say led to the death of her infant son.
I felt, based upon her conduct, she provided neither the appropriate or lawful medical attendance or remedial care. And the subsequent result of that was physical injury and later death.
I'm firmly convinced that there was not a crime committed, and I also am firmly convinced that any medical advice that was given to Pamela Stewart, she attempted to comply with to the best of her abilities.
I'm really upset over my son's death. I can't understand why the district attorney is going through this right now.
Thomas Travis Monson was born brain damaged after an emergency cesarean delivery in November 1985. He died 5 weeks later. The coroner listed fetal distress related to maternal drug use as the cause of death. The attending pediatrician notified California authorities that the baby was born with amphetamines and marijuana in its system, and that Pamela Stewart admitted taking the drugs.
I guess I turned into a woman for the safety of a child, okay? But I think when the baby is born and there is presence of or evidence of problems that were illegally induced during pregnancy, then I think somebody has to bear the responsibility.
Police in the town of El Cajon, where Stewart lives, were called in to investigate. They discovered that Stewart's pregnancy was complicated by a condition called placenta previa, a tendency for the placenta to tear away from the uterine wall. According to police records, doctors told her to take bed rest, abstain from sexual intercourse, stay off drugs, and to get medical help when she started to bleed. Advice police say Pamela Stewart ignored up to the very day she gave birth.
She took the drugs, the methamphetamine and the marijuana. She did not refrain from the sexual intercourse, and when she began hemorrhaging, she did not seek the care of a doctor. We honestly feel that if she had done everything that the doctor had told her to do, that child would still be alive today.
San Diego prosecutor Harry Elias accused Stewart of withholding medical care. It's a misdemeanor under a California law normally used to collect child support for pregnant women. The law defines human life as a child conceived but not yet born.
The statute says, under this regard, that a fetus, as this baby was until its birth, is to be protected. So it's not a question of policing pregnancy. It's protecting kids.
Pamela Stewart is a 27-year-old mother of two. She is poor and poorly educated. Richard Boson is her court-appointed attorney.
She's confused. She doesn't understand this kind of prosecution because within her heart, in her own mind, she knows how much she loved that child.
After her arrest, Pamela Stewart spent 6 days in this San Diego County jail. If convicted, she faces up to 1 year in prison and a $2,000 fine. In this case, police and prosecutors are venturing into uncharted legal territory, or they are slipping, as critics contend, into a kind of ethical quicksand.
Would you give a cigarette to your unborn child? You do. Every time you smoke while you're pregnant.
The Surgeon General warns pregnant women who smoke that they risk miscarriage and underweight babies. Women are told that heavy drinking during pregnancy can lead to serious birth defects. There are new warnings for the 2 million American women said to use cocaine. Newborn addicts are prone to premature birth, irritability, and even strokes. But Pamela Stewart's prosecution raises the question, where do you draw the line from caution to crime, from habits to handcuffs?
Pregnant women should be very concerned about this case. What it means is that virtually everything a woman does while she's pregnant, or perhaps even before she's pregnant, is going to affect whether she's criminally liable.
The mother has a choice. They're exposing the baby. The baby has no choice in the matter. Who's going to be the advocate for the fetus?
Leslie Culver is a pregnant heroin addict. Now she's in a treatment center. But the threat of jail, she says, would only frighten mothers like her from getting help.
The prosecution of us is not going to stop us from using. It won't. There's thousands of us out there today that are using, and it might scare us a little more into not getting the medical attention we need. We're addicts. We're not consciously hurting our fetuses.
But when the rights of a fetus and the rights of its mother conflict, who wins? The same Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion ruled that states can protect the fetus after the second trimester of pregnancy. 16 states now have laws that make killing a fetus a crime, feticide. And courts have ordered women to undergo cesarean sections against their will to save unborn babies. Feminists see this trend to protect the fetus as a sneak attack on abortion rights.
It's okay for a woman to get a safe legal abortion, to have the decision that she has a right to have. That's all right. But if she decides to carry the pregnancy to term, then she no longer has the right. She abdicates the right to her body if she decides to have a baby.
Women who decide to have babies should do what they can to produce healthy children. On that, there is widespread agreement. But there is no such consensus on when that moral responsibility becomes a legal obligation, whether the state can police pregnancy, how far the law reaches into the womb. A mother's responsibility to her fetus is on trial in this courtroom. Can courts that permit legal abortion convict a woman for how she behaves during pregnancy? Can a fetus be the victim of child abuse? Can Pamela Stewart, having lost her baby, be punished in prison for ignoring a doctor's orders? This is Chris Bury for Nightline in San Diego.
When we come back, we'll hear two opposing views as we talk with Lynn Paltrow, a civil liberties attorney who is helping to defend Pamela Stewart, and with John Robertson, a teacher of law and medical ethics who disagrees with that defense.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by NutraSweet.
I was a vice president of a Fortune 500 company. I had a beautiful family, a big house in the suburbs, everything I wanted. Then I got into cocaine, and I almost lost it all. It's a lie that cocaine's not addictive. I didn't choose to be an addict. Quitting cocaine was the only thing I couldn't do by myself. I'll be a recovering addict day by day for the rest of my life.
Call 1-800-662-HELP.
Some people will tell tell you that a smile is a little thing. But at Sheraton, it's a smile that says a lot. It's a smile that says, welcome to Sheraton. It's a smile that says, can I get you another cup of coffee? It says, would you like a few more towels? And it's a smile that says, thank you for staying at Sheraton. At Sheraton, we never forget that little things mean a lot.
This time of year, it's hard for kids to avoid all the bugs going around. But one thing I can keep germ-free is Julie's Big Sur waterbed. The hygienic vinyl surface doesn't harbor germs the way a conventional mattress can, and I like that.
Right now at Big Sur, the Sedona with dual glass display cabinets is only $175.99. Or the Hialeah in a contemporary almond finish is $299.99. Big Sur Waterbeds, America's largest. 3715 Merle Hay Road at Douglas in Des Moines.
Aneurysm can rupture and you could bleed to death. Surgery is the only way. Nobody's carving me up.
You don't think I'm pregnant?
Either that or you're overdue for a bicarbonate.
I'm going to have a baby.
Pregnant?
It's true.
Who's the lucky father?
He kept talking about making it to Sunday. I hope he doesn't get to Saturday.
So what are you going to do?
I want an abortion.
Clapper John, weekday afternoons at 3 on 5 TV.
With the fear of AIDS often goes the fear of having a blood transfusion. But there is a way to minimize the risk. Tomorrow on World News Tonight.
Joining us live from our affiliate KGTV in San Diego is Lynn Paltrow, an attorney for the American Civil Liberties Union, who is one of the counsels for the defense of Pamela Stewart. And from our affiliate KVUE in Austin, Texas, John Robertson, who teaches law and medical ethics at the University of Texas Law School at Austin. Ms. Paltrow, is there any restriction whatsoever on what a pregnant mother may or may not do that might jeopardize the life or the safety of her unborn child?
Well, we believe that it is never appropriate to use the criminal law to enforce any kind of prenatal duty of care.
I wasn't asking you that. I was asking you whether it is ever appropriate to limit what a mother may or may not do. I wasn't getting into criminal law yet.
Well, it's absolutely appropriate to educate women and to encourage good prenatal health care and to do all of the things that we should be doing as a society to encourage women to feel good about their pregnancies and bring forth the healthiest life possible. But you have to make the distinction between criminal laws and moral suasion and education, which are what is appropriate to use in circumstances like these.
Why do you have to do that? If that baby were 1 week old or 1 day old or 1 hour old and the mother were to do something that she knew would cause damage to that child, there wouldn't be any question but that was a criminal action. Why is there any difference between what happens to a child that is, let's say, 1 hour away from being born or 1 week away from being born?
The difference is geography. The fetus is inside the woman's body. The fetus is not in a jar. It's not walking down the street. It's in her body. And thus, the primary concern has to be looking at them as the social unit that they are and encouraging the woman to take the best health care she can.
All right, let's talk about that geography for a moment. If that woman commits a crime, I'm not talking now about the fetus. If that woman, for example, injects herself with heroin, no question that she is committing a crime. She can be prosecuted for that, can she not?
Absolutely.
Now, by extension, is she not also then deliberately and knowingly damaging the fetus?
That kind of question is a destructive distraction, Ted, and the reason is that a woman who takes drugs is not taking drugs because she hates the fetus. She's taking the drugs because she's an addict and she has a drug abuse problem. And we already know that because drug abuse is criminal, women are deterred from getting prenatal health care. In fact, one of the greatest risks to infants born to drug-addicted women is not from the drugs, it's from the fact that they've been afraid to get prenatal health care. And that's exactly what's happening with the prosecution in San Diego.
Why is it forgive me though, but why is it necessary that the woman be deliberately doing something destructive to the child? I don't think anyone is suggesting that any of these mothers are deliberately trying to harm their unborn children. The question is whether a prudent mother-to-be, knowing that what she is doing to herself is also going to be damaging to the child, whether that woman can be held accountable.
You saw from the pre-tape that the woman who is a heroin addict wants to do everything she possibly can, but her choices are limited. For example, with heroin addicts, there are two choices. They can go on methadone, which is also addicting to the fetus, or they can go through withdrawal, which might kill the fetus and make them lose the pregnancy they want. Our options are very limited.
All right, let me I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, but I haven't gotten to Mr. Robertson yet, and we are beginning to run out of time for this segment. Your response to what you have heard thus far?
If the woman had done this to the baby after it were born, she clearly could be held liable under child abuse laws.
Well, we've already gone through that round. Let's see if you can address some of the issues that Ms. Paltrow raises. In other words, she is saying that it is a question of geography. She is saying that because the fetus is still within the mother's body, that the mother has a right to do with her own body what she will.
Well, the mother does not have an absolute right to do with her body what she will. She did not have to get pregnant, and once pregnant, she did not have to carry that fetus to term, but having chosen to go to term, she takes on certain moral and legal responsibilities.
John, that's not always true. That is not.
Just a second, Ms. Paltrow. You've had an opportunity at the top, and you will have again. But let Mr. Paltrow, let Mr. Robertson go on for a moment. What were you saying?
And there is a well-established legal tradition, both civil and criminal law, that recognizes prenatal duties to offspring. A woman has those duties if she decides to go ahead and go to term. She's not obligated to, but if she makes that choice, she then waives the right to absolute control of her body.
Now, how much of an obligation does she have? If, for example, she's a workaholic instead of an alcoholic or a drug addict, you think that she can be prosecuted if, as a result of that, she suffers from depression or a nervous breakdown and causes damage to the child?
Probably not, because that does not, working hard does not now appear to be so risky to the offspring that would be a reasonable case for prosecution.
What if the gynecologist tells her, either you ease back now, either you stop working 70 hours a week, or you're going to damage the baby, and she says, I'm sorry, it's too important, I've got a big contract coming up, got to close it.
Well, it depends on how risky her conduct is toward...
Very risky. I'm the gynecologist, and I'm telling you it's very, very risky, and you could damage your baby.
Well, under the same principle which says when a doctor advises a mother to take an infant to the hospital when it has a very high fever, if the doctor's reasonable medical clinical judgment in the case is that the baby will be injured, she may well have a legal obligation in that case.
All right, I'll tell you what, let's take a break, and then we will come back with yet another guest. One of the issues in this dispute is whether it puts doctors in the role of policemen. And when we come back, we'll discuss that with Dr. Vivian Dickerson, a practicing obstetrician and gynecologist in the Los Angeles area.
You're about to discover one reason no other long-distance company can give you what AT&T can. You'll see something that lets us offer you a distinct advantage. What is it that helps keep us at the cutting edge? Betsy Thompson.
I'd be glad to assist you, Mr. Green.
And thousands like her who handle AT&T cards, billing questions, 800 numbers, any service you need.
I'm glad I could help.
For over 100 years, when you reached out, we were there, and you can keep it that way. AT&T, the right choice.
Shearson Lehman Brothers, where we stand on IRAs. We believe you should continue contributing to your IRA because the gains are still tax deferred. But we also recommend you supplement your IRA with an SRA, our supplemental retirement account, a disciplined way to double, triple, quadruple your retirement nest egg. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers. Minds over money.
Your Nissan dealers are kicking the competition right where it counts. The bottom line. Compare the bottom line price of our 5-speed Sentra with a comparable Toyota Tercel or a Honda Civic. Compare the Stanza with Toyota and Honda. Or compare our luxurious Maxima to the Toyota Cressida. All at rock bottom prices. And now special factory incentives can save you hundreds more. But don't wait and don't pay more. See one of these greater Iowa Nissan dealers today.
Spreading sunshine is something we all have the power to do. And the Variety Club Telethon is your chance to do a little shining. All the money raised stays right in Iowa to help local charities. It's a chance for Iowans to help Iowans.
Join us for the Variety Club Telethon beginning Saturday night, February 28th at 10:30. Here on your TV station, 5 TV, and help us spread the sunshine.
A good meal. Most of us take it for granted. But for millions of Americans, it's something they seldom see. Fortunately, though, Second Harvest will help. Second Harvest is a national network of food banks dedicated to feeding hungry Americans. But it needs your support. So please, contact the Second Harvest member near you. After all, isn't America one place where no one should live in hunger?
1972, the Watergate scandal begins with a bungled break-in, and terrorism shatters the spirit of the Munich Olympics. Watch Our World Thursday.
Hello from Miami, I'm Joan London.
And I'm Charles Gibson. Tomorrow, golf great Jack Nicklaus joins us.
And travel the beautiful waterways of Florida tomorrow on Good Morning America.
With us live in our Los Angeles bureau is Dr. Vivian Dickerson, a practicing obstetrician and gynecologist who sees over 600 pregnant women a year. I understand you have a patient or had a patient who was pregnant, loved to jog, inveterate jogger.
That's correct.
Now, how much jogging did she do and how potentially damaging was it?
You're asking a question that's very difficult to respond to, and indeed, this entire issue, as we're discussing it, has to do with absolutes, and there are no absolutes. Is 2 miles a day jogging too much? Is 1 injection of heroin in a pregnancy going to cause damage? Is 1 episode of bleeding going to harm a fetus? Unfortunately, we don't have an exact science that we're working with. We do the best that we know how. We act on our experience. We act on our best medical advice. But indeed, it is advice. It's not word of law.
But this one patient, for example, she was doing what, 8 to 10 miles a day?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Hopping into the hot tub when she got back?
That's right.
Was there any question in your mind but that she was potentially endangering the fetus?
My advice to her was to monitor her jogging so that she met certain parameters which I felt would be within the realm of safety. I could not indeed cite to her any specific harm that she might cause to her fetus, but I felt that perhaps the better part of valor would be a modicum of judgment in terms of...
Did she listen to you?
Yes, she did.
Now, what if she hadn't? Do you call the cops? Call the DA?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
Well, what if, let's make it a little more difficult. Let's say she's smoking 3 packs a day. Let's say she's drinking 6 to 8 ounces of hard liquor a day. Now you're beginning to get a lot more worried about the fetus, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And she's not going to listen to you. She comes to see you and she says, yeah, well, I tried, but I can't quit. You call the cops?
No, I wouldn't.
Ever?
I might call a psychiatrist, I might call in a social worker, and I certainly might call all of the medical personnel at my disposal to deal with this woman and to be able to advise her and make her understand, and indeed I think this is a big issue, that she understands what she's doing.
She understands. This is a particularly tough case that we're dealing with here. She understands. She doesn't want to go see a shrink. She doesn't want to see a sociologist. She's come to see you. She says, you know, I want to have a healthy baby. And you say, well, you want to have a healthy baby. You're going about it in all the wrong ways. And you're probably not going to have a healthy baby. But she says, doctor, leave me alone. I can't quit smoking. I can't quit drinking. I can't quit heroin. Everything she is doing leads you to believe that that baby is going to be born damaged. At which point do you become responsible for the baby?
Ted, I think I'm always responsible for the baby, and I certainly am a patient advocate, both the fetus and the mother. It makes my specialty unique, and it's something that I consider myself to be.
Yeah, but you know you can't have it both ways.
I wish I could be as sure as you are that
I'm not sure. Listen, it's easy for me to ask the questions, and because we only have a little amount of time, I've got to make them tough questions.
That's right. To answer the question that you posed to me, however, will I tell the patient that this will most likely cause damage to her baby? There are very few situations in which even that can be said with enough assurance that I would risk calling the police to have this woman, what, incarcerated? To have her put in jail? To do what? And at what point would then that impinge on my relationship with all my other patients who would then either not walk in the door at all or walk in the door and give me false information so that I could no longer be an advocate for either the mother or the baby?
Okay, you raise an interesting question. John Robertson, is it ever possible then to do anything for the fetus beforehand, or do we have to wait until after the baby is born, brain damaged or the baby dies, something happens, then you involve the police. Does it always have to wait until after the damage is done?
Not always, but that is probably the best way to proceed. If the state is going to get involved in this, it should only be in egregious cases. In those cases, post-birth sanctions may be appropriate. However, there may be some exceptional cases where some intervention before birth would be appropriate.
Give me a real quick for instance.
Well, for example, a blood transfusion for RH factor into the mother's uterus would save the baby from severe damage. I think perhaps in many states that kind of transfusion could be imposed on the mother against her will for the sake of the unborn child.
All right, folks, we have to take a very quick break, and then we'll come back and I'll give each of you a chance for a final comment. We'll continue our conversation in just a moment.
I can't get air.
Before and Afrin.
It worked.
For relief without drowsiness or jitters, Afrin's the spray doctors and pharmacists recommend most.
Stuffed.
Before and Afrin.
For budget lodging, I call Comfort Inn at this number. For mid-price lodging, I call Quality Inn at this number. For a luxury room at a Clarion Hotel or even suites, I call this number. Call this number and make the quality choice.
Whatever you want to lock in, lock out, lock up, or lock down, remember, master locks are tough under tough conditions, tough under pressure, tough under fire. Good days go by fast, your work never seems to end. That's why we stand behind every Whirlpool appliance with our 24-hour Cool Line telephone service to help with problems or questions, and our national network of authorized tech care service outlets. Whirlpool, quality appliances. We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool. Throughout the 20th century, one industry has been responsible for helping develop countless plant safety procedures. Procedures that make the American factory a safe, secure, relaxed place to work. Who is that industry? You're going to be surprised. Your insurance company. We do a lot more than sell insurance.
Continuing our conversation now with Lynn Paltrow, John Robertson, and Dr. Vivian Dickerson. Dr. Dickerson, you were about to make a comment.
I just wanted to say that we don't wait until the fetus is born to make interventive maneuvers. We do have multiple tests that we do, but the basis for those tests, and when we do them, is based on accurate information from the patient, and anything that will inhibit that give and take with patient and physician, I am opposed to.
All right, so as far as any legal action is concerned, you clearly don't feel any legal action should be taken until after the baby is born, and maybe not even then.
I feel it could be counterproductive if done before. That's correct.
All right, Lynn Paltrow, at which point, is there any point, and we end where we began, is there any point at which the law should be brought into this process before the baby is born?
Nothing in Roe v. Wade or anything about the American legal system suggests that the use of the criminal law is appropriate in this way. And the kind of examples that we were using before about drug addicts are misleading. They place individual blame on particular women and distract from the fact that we need to take social responsibility for the incredible lack of prenatal care in this country. 25% of all American women in the prime childbearing age have no coverage for medication or care during their pregnancies or deliveries. There's a lot we could do as Americans to make a difference for healthy children and the healthiest possible parents. If we want to have healthy children, the last thing we should do is use the criminal justice system.
All right, Mr. Robertson, you get the final word.
If the mother is doing things that are clearly unreasonably risky and harmful to offspring, she has a legal and moral duty to refrain from doing so. In certain cases, it is certainly appropriate and within the power of the state to intervene to prevent such harmful conduct from children occurring.
All right, parenthetically, I thank all of you, but our viewers might be interested in knowing that I believe on Thursday a decision will be handed down in the case that we saw at the beginning of this broadcast. Now, that's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
When you can't read and write, deep down in the inside of you, there's a pain, there's a hurt. And when I broke out and said, hey, I can't read, I've never been to school, that freed me. And it's something that I can't explain. I'm so free. All the guilt for many years in my life now has turned into joy.
It's never too late to learn to read. If you need help, or if you can help someone else, call. This is your TV station, 5TV.
Five men are dead, and now there's a possibility that they might have died in some sort of nuclear accident.
The radiation source was plutonium.
Plutonium?